I'm a fighter, coach, and student of the mind. On this channel, we go behind the punches and kicks. We break down the psychology behind fighting, performance, and life itself. See, from the science of fear to the pressure of the spotlight, to the mental tricks that separates champions from the average. See, this is where we uncover what really drives human performance, whether you're a fighter, an athlete, or just someone chasing growth. The tools you'll find here are built to sharpen your mind, strengthen your discipline, and unlock the part of you that refuses to quit. So, welcome to the fighter's mind. So let's begin. When a fighter quits, the crowd thinks it's because he ran out of gas. His muscles failed, his lungs collapsed, his body just broke down. But the truth of the matter is, the body almost always has more left. What really fails first is the mind. Science proves it. Your brain has a built-in limiter, a governor, that pulls the plug before you reach your true physical limit. It convinces you that you're exhausted, that you can't go on, when in reality, you've still got 10, maybe 20% left in the tank. See, that difference between what you feel and what you're actually capable of, that's where fights are either won or lost. See, that's where champions separate themselves from everyone else. So tonight, I'm going to break down the psychology of why the mind quits before the body, the science behind it, and how you can train your brain to stop being the enemy and start becoming your greatest weapon. See, most fighters believe they lost because their body gives out, because their lungs burned, or their muscles filled with lactic acid. But the truth is far beyond that. See, the human body has an incredible capacity for endurance, for pain, and for survival. What usually fails first is not the body at all. It's the mind. Science has proven that your brain acts like a built-in limiter, a governor that shuts things down long before your body has reached its failure, its true failure. This is known as the central governor model, introduced by Professor Tim Noakes, I can't say his name. And it completely changed the way we understand exhaustion. Your brain, not your legs, tells you when you're done. Your nervous system creates sensations of fatigue to prevent you from pushing so far that you might cause damage. But here's the catch. This governor is overly protective. Research shows that when athletes believe they're spent, they still have 10 to 20% more output available. That means what feels like the end is usually just the brain pulling back early. This is why some fighters can look completely finished, wobbling, gasping, and yet somehow summon a second wind when their corner yells at them or when the crowd roars. See, the body suddenly recovers. The mind simply decided to release a little bit more of what was always there. So now let's talk about why this matters in fighting. See, inside the gym, under comfortable conditions, you might go 5 rounds easily, but under the bright lights with adrenaline rushing and an opponent trying to take your head off and thousands of eyes locked on you, suddenly 2 minutes feels like death. So what changed? Not your cardio. The environment hijacked your psychology. In fact, studies from the European Journal of Sports Science have shown that mental fatigue alone can drop your physical performance by over 15%. That's a lot. So think about that. Just being mentally drained can make you weaker, slower, and less coordinated, even if your body is fully recovered. See, this is why gym heroes crumble on fight night. They never train the mind to carry the same calm, the same focus under stress. Fear is the next layer of this. Neuroscience tells us that fear activates the amygdala, the ancient survival system inside your brain. When that part lights up, your heart rate spikes, your breathing shortens, and your muscles tense as if you were about to sprint from a predator or somebody attacking you. That's useful if you're running from a lion, but not inside the cage. It's poison. Fear isn't weakness, it's biology. Everyone feels it. Fighters, soldiers, public speakers. But champions learn to reinterpret fear instead of letting it lock their body. They learn to ride it like a wave. This is where psychology separates from the average to the elite. Now let's get into some tools. So one of the most powerful things is just breathing. Navy SEALs used a method called box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. See, this pattern activates the vagus nerve, which drops your heart rate and signals safety to your nervous system. When you do this under fire, whether it's sparring or a street confrontation, you regain clarity. So another tool is visualization. A 2014 study in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that athletes who visualize under stress perform nearly as well as those who physically train. The brain literally cannot distinguish between vivid imagination experiences and real reps. This is why fighters who walk through every step of their fight week in their head often look calmer. Under the lights, they don't really get exhausted within those 2 minutes. See, they've put themselves in that mentally controlled exposure, which is another piece. You don't become mentally tough by reading quotes or motivations and watching videos. You become mentally tough by repeatedly surviving hard situations and proving to yourself that you won't die when your lungs burn or your muscles scream. See, Shark Tank rounds in the gym where fresh opponents rotate in on you mimic this perfectly. Your brain screams quit, but you keep going, and with every survival, you rewire your psychology, your brain. Over time, what once created panic becomes normal. This is how true grit is built, through exposure and not comfort. So I'll give you a personal example. I've been in fights where my lungs were fine, but my brain told me, quit, stop, because either my biceps hurt, my shoulders hurt, or I was just completely fatigued and my muscles were locking down. My body felt like it was shutting completely down. See, this was earlier in my career. I panicked in those moments. But once I learned to breathe, once I trusted the science that my body had more to give, I realized those sensations were just alarms, not reality. They were signals from my brain trying to protect me, not the truth. See, when I leaned into the knowledge, suddenly the storm felt manageable. I could keep throwing, keep moving while my opponent gave into that panic. See, this isn't just about fighting either. It applies to life. How many people quit in businesses, relationships, dreams because they felt exhausted, overwhelmed, and believed that what they were feeling were actually a reality of it just because of their brain. So, but in reality, they had more in the tank. They let perception dictate reality. Psychology runs everything from the cage to the boardroom. So, why does the mind quit before the body? Because it's just wired that way. It's wired to protect, not to maximize. Your biology is designed for survival, not championship rounds. If you want to break that barrier, you need to train your mind as hard as you're striking or you're grappling. See, breathing under stress, visualize the outcome, put yourself in situations where quitting feels easy, but you refuse. Slowly you start to teach your brain that the alarms that's going off in your head are just false, that your body can actually take more. And when you step into a fight or in the cage or in that boardroom, with that understanding, you fight free or you give that speech without necessarily a care in the world. And just realize that your mind is just playing tricks on you. So once you start knowing that fear isn't weakness, it's fuel, mental fatigue is just another opponent that can be beaten. And when your opponent looks at you confused, wondering why you're still standing when you feel like collapsing, that's when psychology wins and you overall just take over the fight itself. I mean, the body does have limits, but most people never touch them. They stop when the mind says stop. Champions train until the mind becomes an ally instead of an enemy. That's the difference. And if you understand this, you can start practicing it today. Practice it daily. You'll discover just how much more potential is inside you, whether you're a fighter, an athlete, or just someone trying to win in life. So remember this. The mind fails before the body, but that doesn't mean you have to fail. You can train it, you can override it, and if you do fully realize you're capable of far more than you ever believed. So if you liked what you heard, subscribe down below. And if you haven't yet, check out my Instagram at jn_blacklightning. But overall, I'll see you guys in the next video. Please say I hit record.